Hi guys, Maikeru here. This is my guide on normal mode Kerapac. I'm going to have a guide on hard mode and the Slayer creatures and stuff like that afterwards, but I want to start out with normal mode Kerapac on day of release, and then once I've got better at hard mode, etc., I'll have guides for those as well afterwards. So starting out with normal mode Kerapac, the setup that I used is on screen now. I used a very budget melee setup, and I also used a range setup that is slightly less budget, but probably what I would recommend. You can do it with the melee setup that I'm showing, but it's way more annoying to do it with melee in my opinion, especially because of the way that he jumps on top of you, and being an MD can be a little bit troublesome. So if you have enough gear and you have enough money, then using something like Ascensions with range is going to be so good. And I would highly recommend that. He always rotates through the exactly same three mechanics. The first mechanic is where he stuns you and does a line of magical damage. All I do to counter this is freedom and move to the side, and then you can continue DPSing him from the side while he does this like magic line of damage. As long as you're not inside it, it doesn't matter. You do want to freedom or anticipate beforehand in order to not get stunned though, because that helps a ton. The only thing with these mechanics is every phase, these mechanics replay themselves. So this first mechanic, as you can see here, I'm in phase 3, so the phase 1 and phase 2 of this are also shown here, and they also deal damage to you. So what you need to make sure is that you're not standing in any of the previous phases' magical lines either. Every phase is the exact same, but they add the previous phase as those clones, as you can see here. So P1, it will just be doing it on its own. P2, it'll be doing it with one clone, as you can see here. Then P3, it'll be doing it with two clones, as you can see here. So that's the first mechanic, and that's what he always does first. Second mechanic that he does is the jumps. He jumps and slams on top of you. He does this 3 times in a row. I would suggest pray in melee, and as soon as his wings reach the tip behind him right here, you want to surge. If you surge at the timing of his wings hitting the tip, you'll never ever get slammed by that. You'll always surge out of it. The timing can be very annoying to get, and as you can see here, I've messed up my timing, and you can see that he stuns you, and he deals a lot of melee damage over time. This is why you protect from melee to stop that melee damage if you miss your surge. But if this does happen, you want to just run away so you stop taking that consistent melee damage, and he'll just jump again after that. Although one thing to note is, even though he slams 3 times, you can surge every single time because it doesn't actually put your surge on cooldown. So you don't have to worry about having double surge or bladed dive or anything like that. You can just surge every single time. Again, this replays it from the previous phases as well, and they do deal damage to you and they do stun you. So you also need to try not to get hit by the previous stuns as well. As you can see on screen here, this is P2, so there's another 1 also doing stunning, and then this is P3, so there's 2 doing stuns. So you have to watch out for those as well as the original Kerapac in the later phases as well. And then finally, the third mechanic is the walls. When I was using my range setup, I was skipping this mechanic entirely by DPSing him past the phase quick enough. Although with my melee setup, with no perks, nothing like that, and only tier 85 weapons, I couldn't do enough damage to stop this phase. So I consistently got this phase with my melee setup. But if you have good gear, like I said, you can skip this, and it would be ideal to skip this because this phase is so annoying. All you gotta do is bladed dive or surge through them. But the issue is, P1, there's only 1 of them, right? 1 wall, easy. P2, there is 2 walls, a little bit harder. And then phase 3, there is 3 walls that come at you from all different directions. This can get super hard and super tricky. So because of this, it can be a very annoying mechanic, especially in phase 3. So if you can skip it with DPS, try go all out on phase 3. To skip this. Those are the 3 mechanics. Once you've done those, the rest of the fight is just a DPS nuking phase. He goes to 75k HP and you just need to DPS him down. He deals a lot of damage in this phase, so I would advise Devotion in, and that will help a ton. There is one other thing you can use to your advantage though, and that's your extra action button. If you can't see your extra action button, you can go to your edit layout mode and go to your extra action button on the list, click that on and move it wherever on your screen you can see it and it's clear. What this extra button does is it allows you to go back in time. When you press it, it remembers your HP, your adren, and your cooldowns. And then up to 10 seconds later, or when you press it again, you then go back to that point. So you want to press this when you're on full HP, full adren, and then dump your adren or use an ultimate. What I do in my range setup, for example, in P2, I don't have Death Swiftness up because I used it P1. I'll do it with 100% adren, I'll snapshot, and I'll use a dark bow, literally get rid of all of my adren. Then I'll wait out the 10 seconds, and it will then send me back, giving me all my adren and all my HP once again. It also resets the cooldown of my snapshot, which is so helpful, and then that allows me to do another rotation. When I'm going into phase 3, I do it differently. My Death Swiftness is back up. So what I do personally is I'll pop it when I'm on full HP and full adren. Then I'll Death Swiftness, and then I'll let it re-give me all of my adren, so then inside that Death Swiftness, I can dump my snapshot, my rapid fire, my dart bow, whatever I want to do, and also deal a ton of damage inside that Death Swiftness without even needing an adren pot, because that is the adren pot. It can be really, really useful. But the only issue is it also puts you back into your previous location. So as you can see here, when I was in P2, it put me back into that beam. So sometimes using it, it can definitely hinder you as well. So you need to get used to using it correctly and at the right times. Because you don't want to use it if you have like walls coming towards you and you teleport back into the wall. That's not what you want. And that is literally the whole kill. I'm just going to quickly recap it now with a full kill right here, sped up. I go into the kill, I do P1, I put down a Death Swiftness, use my adren pot, DPS as hard as I can. As soon as the first mechanic comes out, I then freedom, move out of it, DPS him until he goes into the air, then I protect from melee, surge every single time, surging whenever his wings hit the tip to make sure that I surge at the correct timing. I believe in this skill I do mess up my surge once or twice. It does take a little bit to get used to, and I still mess it up sometimes myself, but for the most part, I'm able to skip it. And again, if you don't skip it, make sure you do run out of MD of the boss, so he'll jump again and stop dealing loads of melee damage to you. And then because I'm using Ascensions and I'm doing decent damage, I skip the walls completely. Going into P2, I have my extra button, right? So what I do is I use my button when I get full HP and adren, then I dump all my adren with my debo, my snapshot, everything, and then it puts me back to full adren, full HP, so I can re-damage again, getting me a ton of DPS. Then he jumps in the sky again. This time, obviously, there's two of them, so do be careful of the extra cloned one from the previous phase. Do make sure you don't surge into that or anything like that. And then DPSing him hard once again, I skip the walls. Then we go into P3, and the first one is the same once again. It does the magical line, so I freed him and I move out of the way, and I'm making sure I'm not getting hit from the previous two, and I'm nowhere near any of them. Continuing to DPS, continuing to use my extra bar to my advantage to, deal as much damage and dump as much adrenaline as I can. Whenever I'm full, I'll always use that. So then I can dump and then go back to full. Obviously, again, the slams with two others, you want to dodge that and DPS as hard as you can so you can skip the walls. Those walls are so annoying, so I definitely would say it's 100% worth skipping those. That's why I recommend this range setup over the melee one personally, because skipping those is so nice. Then we go into the last phase, which is literally just a nuke phase. I advise using something like Devotion here to save tons of damage that you'll be taking, and just DPSing as hard as you can with all of your thresholds. Again, you can use the extra action button to your advantage here with defensives and offensives, and that's the kill. Hopefully talking through each of the singular mechanics and then doing a quick rundown was helpful to you. I will be doing a guide on hard mode. I will be doing some Slayer Creatures stuff, some loot videos. I'll be doing a ton of different things this week, so watch out for all of those videos. I just wanted to get this out to start, and obviously I got to explore the content and learn it all properly before I make full in-depth guides on the rest. Hopefully this was useful. Give it a like if it was. And as always, until next time, see ya.